Have you ever looked in the mirror and wondered if your beauty has quietly faded with time? If so, let me gently remind you of a truth most women forget. Your natural beauty hasn't faded. It has simply transformed. In today's video, we'll explore 10 subtle but powerful signs that prove you're still naturally attractive, even without makeup. These aren't about trends or surface appearances. They're about the quiet confidence, calm grace, and lived-in wisdom that radiates from women like you, especially after 60. You might not see it every day, but others do. It's in the way you walk, the calm in your voice, the warmth in your smile. It's in your ability to stand tall even after life has tried to bend you. These are not flaws to hide, but quiet strengths to honor. So if you've ever felt unseen or doubted your worth, this video is your reminder. You are still deeply beautiful, naturally, gracefully, and completely. If that resonates with you, go ahead and like this video, subscribe for more soulful content like this, and tell us in the comments, which kind of beauty do you value most now, external or internal? Let's begin. You know it in your bones now, the calm that comes with experience. It's not something you put on like lipstick or a dress. It's something that settles into your presence over time, like a soft light that doesn't scream for attention, but quietly warms every room you enter. You used to feel the pressure to rush, to prove, to keep up with everyone else's pace, but now you move slower and more deliberately. You speak with fewer words, but more weight. And in that stillness, you hold something rare, emotional, grounding that many never reach. People around you may not always say it, but they feel it. Your presence soothes. You don't react to every little thing because you've learned that not everything deserves your energy. That steadiness in your posture, that calm in your breath, that pause before you speak, it all tells a story, not of perfection, but of someone who has been through storms and now knows which winds to walk through and which to let pass. This kind of beauty isn't loud. It doesn't try to grab attention. It draws people in, because peace is magnetic. When you're grounded emotionally, when you've done the deep work of letting go of what doesn't serve you, people sense it without knowing why. It's the way you carry yourself when no one's looking. It's the soft confidence in your silence. It's knowing when to say nothing at all and still speak volumes. You've stopped performing. You've stopped chasing approval. And in return, you've gained something far more powerful: emotional self-mastery. The kind that shows up when you choose not to react, when you smile instead of explaining, when you simply leave a room that drains your peace. That kind of calm doesn't come from luck. It comes from surviving heartbreaks, forgiving yourself, and learning how to stand still in a world that rushes past. So if you ever wonder whether you're still attractive, remember this. Calmness is deeply attractive. It's rare, it's rich, and it's yours. You've earned it. Not just through the years, but through the choices you've made to protect your energy, to listen more, and to walk gently with strength. The calm you hold now isn't just a feeling. It's a presence, and yes, it's beautiful. That calm you now carry, earned, lived, and grounded, doesn't just settle in your voice or your posture. It reaches all the way to your eyes, and that's where something even deeper begins to speak. The eyes that have seen life hold a kind of wisdom that can't be faked, rushed, or dressed up. They don't need to sparkle constantly, because what they reflect is far more powerful than charm. They reflect the truth, kindness, a quiet strength that comes from everything you've lived through and everything you've overcome. You've noticed it, haven't you? People pause when you look at them, not because your eyes are flawless, but because they're full of presence. Your gaze tells a story that only time, tenderness, and resilience can write. When someone meets your eyes, they feel seen, not judged, not compared, but understood. It's as if you say without speaking, "I've been where you are and I'm still standing." That unspoken recognition makes people soften, trust, and feel safe. And that kind of emotional depth is rare. Your eyes carry empathy now. They know what matters and what doesn't. They no longer chase approval or scan the room to see who's watching. Instead, they notice the quiet things. Who's hurting, who needs space, who just wants to be acknowledged. That gentle awareness is what gives your face its quiet beauty. It's not about erasing crow's feet or covering under-eye shadows. Those tiny lines are memory maps, proof that you've smiled often, cried deeply, and chosen to keep loving, despite it all. The world chases surface-level beauty, but your eyes remind people of something real. They remind people that being deeply human, flawed, kind, aware, is more powerful than being perfectly polished. You don't need to try to captivate anyone. The emotional grounding behind your gaze already does. So the next time you look in the mirror and hesitate, pause just a moment longer. See the life in your eyes, see the quiet power they carry. And remember, no matter what age you are, when your eyes reflect both softness and strength, you're not just attractive, you're unforgettable. Just as your eyes carry the quiet weight of experience, your voice carries something just as powerful. Not in volume, not in pitch, but in presence. A voice that doesn't need volume to be heard is one of the most magnetic qualities a woman can possess, especially as she grows older. You've lived enough to know that being loud isn't the same as being strong, and commanding attention isn't the same as earning respect. Now your words come slower, steadier, and with purpose. Not because you're unsure, but because you've learned that silence can be just as impactful as speech. People lean in when you speak, not because you're trying to impress them, but because your tone holds calmness, confidence, dignity. Your voice no longer carries the weight of needing to explain everything or convince anyone of your worth. It carries wisdom, it carries grace, and most importantly, it carries restraint. You don't speak to fill the air, you speak when it matters. That kind of emotional discipline, that kind of calm communication is rare, and it shows just how much you've grown into yourself. Think about how you've learned to express difficult emotions over the years, not with shouting, but with clarity. Not with blame, but with truth. That kind of self-control doesn't just build stronger relationships, it builds self-respect. It keeps you grounded in tense moments and helps you protect your peace when others might try to rattle it. People. Notice this. Whether it's in a family conversation or a quiet moment with a friend, your words leave a mark. Not because you speak a lot, but because you speak with intention. The world teaches us that being heard means being louder, but you've discovered something deeper. When your voice comes from a place of grounded confidence, you don't have to raise it. It resonates. So the next time you feel like staying quiet, don't doubt that instinct. That calm, sure voice of yours is not just attractive, it's powerful. It speaks of self-awareness, of emotional independence, and of a kind of mature beauty that doesn't need anyone's approval to exist. You've earned the right to be soft and still be strong, and when you speak from that place, people listen. As your voice grows softer yet more grounded, something else begins to stand out before you even say a word. Your posture that speaks before you do. You may not think about it often, but the way you carry yourself now tells people everything they need to know. You've stopped shrinking to make space for others, and that silent decision shows in how you walk, how you stand, and how you enter a room. You're no longer trying to disappear, to blend in, or to apologize for your presence. You've grown into the kind of woman who walks with quiet dignity, not to demand attention, but to honor herself. You stand a little taller now, not because someone told you to, but because you've learned what it means to hold your own space. Straight shoulders, lifted chin, a gaze that's steady but kind. It's not performance, it's presence. You've spent years learning how to stay calm under pressure, how to hold your emotions without being overwhelmed by them. That inner stability becomes visible in the way you move. You've become your own emotional anchor, and people sense it without needing to ask. You're no longer chasing anyone's approval, which means you're no longer shrinking to fit into their boxes. That kind of freedom is rare and powerful. It gives your movements a kind of fluid confidence, a graceful boldness. You don't need dramatic gestures to be noticed. The way you pause, the way you step forward slowly but with certainty, says more than words ever could. Even when you say nothing, your posture tells the truth. You respect yourself. You know your worth. And you won't let the world rush you anymore. In a culture obsessed with youth and perfection, your steady, self-assured posture becomes a quiet rebellion. It says, I'm still here, still strong, and I'm not hiding. And in doing so, you invite others, especially younger women, to do the same. So the next time you catch yourself slouching or rushing, pause, stand tall, walk slowly. Let your body remember that you are not someone who fades into the background. You are someone who's earned the right to move with grace and with purpose. And that alone is breathtaking. That graceful posture you now hold doesn't just reflect strength, it reflects intention. And flowing gently from that is something even more personal. The way you care for yourself quietly, not with loud declarations or flashy routines, but in small, almost invisible choices you make every single day. It's in the way you keep your clothes clean and choose with care, in how your hands stay moisturized, how your nails are trimmed, how you pick a scarf not for anyone else, but because it makes you feel elegant. These subtle gestures aren't about vanity. They're about self-respect. They're about choosing again and again to honor your body, your rhythm, your presence. You've lived long enough to know that beauty doesn't need to scream. It whispers through consistency. You've stopped trying to keep up with every trend or please every opinion, and in doing so you've created a kind of emotional independence that shows up in your skin, your clothes, and your pace. You don't neglect yourself just because fewer people are watching. You've made peace with solitude, and from that peace a gentle routine has taken root, one that nourishes you, not for show, but for grounding. People notice this. They may not always comment, but they feel it. They sense your steadiness. Your natural glow doesn't come from cosmetics. It comes from choosing to stay present in your own body, from treating yourself as someone worth showing up for. You've stopped seeking external validation and started building quiet rituals that help you reconnect with who you are. That cup of tea in the morning, the soft sweater that feels just right, the walk you take not to burn calories, but to feel your breath. These aren't just habits. They're acts of self-trust. They are in every way signals of emotional clarity. So when you look at your reflection, don't just scan for flaws. See the dignity in the details. See the quiet proof that you've been choosing yourself in a world that often asks you not to. That's not only attractive, that's powerful. Because any woman who takes care of herself, especially when no one's watching, radiates a kind of natural beauty that no one can take away. The way you care for yourself, in quiet, intentional ways, reveals something even deeper, your emotional intelligence that holds space, not judgment. Over time, you've learned that true beauty isn't just about how you look or even how you act. It's about how you make people feel in your presence. You don't need to prove yourself in conversation or dominate a room with opinions. You've developed something far more powerful, the ability to listen with presence, to pause before reacting, and to respond from a place of clarity rather than impulse. That calmness, that restraint, that inner stillness, people feel it even when they can't explain it. You've become the kind of woman others naturally trust. Maybe it's the way you don't rush to fill silences. Maybe it's the way you allow others to speak without needing to outshine them. Or maybe it's simply your ability to stay present, even when emotions run high. That's what emotional maturity looks like. You've trained your mind to stay grounded, even when others are storming. And you've learned that some of the most powerful responses come in the form of stillness, not silence from fear, but silence from strength. You don't react to every provocation. You don't absorb other people's chaos. And because of that, people come to you when they need calm, not noise. You've become a safe place, someone who doesn't fix or control, but holds space with quiet compassion. That's not weakness. That's discipline. It takes strength to let go of the need to explain your feelings to everyone. It takes wisdom to choose peace over performance. And in a world addicted to outrage and overreaction, your quiet self-control becomes radiant. You've stopped wasting energy on things that don't align with your values. You've learned how to protect your emotional energy without building walls. You've made peace with discomfort, and in that space, others feel free to be themselves. Around you, that sense of emotional safety, so rare, so unspoken, is a form of beauty that no amount of makeup can offer. It doesn't age, it doesn't fade, and the older you get, the more powerful it becomes. When you speak less but feel more, when you offer warmth without judgment, your presence becomes unforgettable. That's the kind of beauty that leaves a mark. Not on the surface, but in the heart. When emotional intelligence allows you to hold space instead of control, something even more powerful takes root, an unshakable character that doesn't bend with approval. You no longer need constant reassurance to feel whole. You've grown tired of performing, of pleasing, of adjusting yourself to make others comfortable. That kind of emotional self-respect doesn't appear overnight. It's forged through years of being misunderstood, through quiet disappointments, through moments when you chose your peace over proving your point. And now you carry yourself with a certainty that no longer relies on applause. You're not interested in fitting someone else's idea of enough. You've defined your own version, and that's what makes you magnetic. People often search for validation in noise, but you found it in stillness. You don't explain yourself as much anymore. You don't shrink back when others question your choices. Instead, you hold steady. Because you've seen what happens when you live for the approval of others, you lose pieces of yourself. And now, you're not willing to give those pieces away. You've grown into a woman who stands in her truth even when it's inconvenient, even when it's lonely, even when it's quiet. That in itself is rare beauty, strength without performance, confidence without arrogance. You trust your intuition now. You listen to your gut, even when it goes against the crowd. You walk away when something drains your spirit, not because you're cold, but because you've learned the cost of staying too long in places that dim your light. This kind of internal clarity is the core of emotional independence. It doesn't need permission, and it doesn't ask for approval. And, while others may not always understand it, they feel it. They sense the calm conviction behind your choices. They respect you more than you know. The older you get, the less you tolerate what once wore you down. You simplify, you soften where you want, and you stand firm where it counts. Your standards are no longer shaped by fear of being alone, but by a deep knowing of who you are and what you deserve. That doesn't make you difficult, it makes you whole. And in a world that pushes women to seek constant validation, your unshakable self-worth becomes something luminous. You don't need to chase beauty anymore. You embody it, quietly and completely. From the strength of your unshakable character grows something softer, something even more radiant. A grateful smile that doesn't try to please. This kind of smile doesn't come from obligation. It's not the polite one you used to wear in uncomfortable rooms, or the one you forced when you didn't want to offend. No, this smile is different. It rises naturally from a place of peace, not performance. It belongs to a woman who has lived through heartache and healing, through disappointment and rediscovery, and still chooses to smile not because she needs to be liked, but because she's thankful to still be here. You've smiled through things no one ever saw. Smiled to yourself in quiet victories. Smiled at strangers because you finally feel safe enough to let your light out again. That smile carries the weight of everything you've endured, but it doesn't show it as burden. It shows it as grace. It softens your features, warms your aura, and draws people in without effort. And the best part, you're no longer smiling to earn affection. You're smiling because you've stopped needing it. That shift is what makes it beautiful. Your smile now is a reflection of emotional freedom. You no longer chase approval or try to smooth over discomfort with performance. You've learned that being kind doesn't mean abandoning yourself. You've stopped sacrificing your boundaries for the sake of fitting in. And so when you smile today, it's not out of fear of rejection. It's an expression of quiet joy, of resilience, of presence. People feel it, they sense that it's real, and that makes it unforgettable. Even your laugh lines speak volumes. They don't need to be hidden or erased. They're proof that you've found reasons to laugh, even on hard days. They're little records of moments you chose joy again and again, despite what life threw. Your way. That's not just beauty. It's wisdom written on your face. When someone sees your smile, what they're seeing isn't just lips or teeth. They're seeing a story, a life. A woman who no longer smiles to be enough, but smiles because she finally knows that she is. And that kind of smile, the kind born from gratitude and not need, is one of the most powerful magnetic things in the world. That grateful smile, so full of peace and self-trust, often comes from something deeper, a sense of meaning that isn't loud but always present. And that's where a quiet passion that fuels you begins to reveal itself. You may not talk about it often. It may not be tied to a career or anything grand. But it's there, in your love for gardening, in the joy of a well-cooked meal, in how you lose track of time with a book in your lap or a brush in your hand. These are not hobbies. These are soul-level connections to your inner life. And that quiet spark you carry, people notice, even if they don't know what it is. There's something deeply attractive about a woman who is anchored in something personal, something that brings her joy without needing an audience. You've stopped needing everything you do to be validated by others. Instead, you've begun to protect your passions as a sacred space, a place where you don't perform, where you don't have to be perfect, just present. And from that place, you radiate something magnetic. It's not about productivity, it's about presence. That kind of quiet fulfillment is rare, and it glows in ways makeup never could. You've likely spent years caring for others, putting your own interests last, and navigating the noise of life. But at some point you circled back to yourself. You started tending to the small rituals that bring you alive again. You remembered the things that feel like you, and you began honoring them, not as extras, but as essential. This shift doesn't require applause. It simply asks for attention. And by giving it, you've given yourself a kind of emotional grounding that many people spend their whole lives searching for. When someone carries quiet passion, it shows in how they speak, how they move, how they sit with themselves. There's a contentment that doesn't need approval, only space, and when others are near it, they feel it too. That steady joy, that quiet energy, it draws people in because it signals something real. A woman who has found her spark again doesn't need to ask if she's still beautiful. She already knows. The glow isn't coming from the outside, it's coming from within. And it's enough. More than enough. That quiet passion you carry, the one that lights you from within, becomes even more powerful when it's no longer shaped by who's watching. And that's what makes the freedom that comes from no longer living for anyone's gaze so transformative. You no longer dress to impress. You no longer smile because it's expected. You no longer say yes when your heart says no. Something inside you has shifted, not loudly, not dramatically, but with finality. You've stopped trying to be digestible, pleasing, or perfect in anyone else's story. Now you're simply living yours. This kind of freedom is one of the most beautiful things a woman can wear. It shows in the way you walk away from what drains you, in how you set boundaries not out of anger, but out of deep emotional clarity. It's in your ability to say less yet mean more. It's in the way you make space for silence, for slowness, for solitude, not as absence but as nourishment. You've learned that peace doesn't come from approval. It comes from knowing you don't owe anyone your energy unless it aligns with your truth. You're no longer bending yourself to meet others' expectations. You're no longer dressing a certain way just to feel seen. Because now, you see yourself. You've redefined what beauty means on your terms. And the version of you that exists when no one is watching, that's the most radiant one of all. This is not detachment. This is self-possession. It's what happens when a woman reclaims her emotional independence and releases the pressure to be more, do more, prove more. You've already proven enough by surviving, by growing, by softening instead of hardening. And that freedom, so quiet, so real, becomes magnetic. People don't just notice it, they feel it. It creates space for others to breathe easier around you, to be more themselves. And that's the power you now carry. Not the power of perfection, but the power of presence. You've come to a place where you no longer live for the spotlight, yet somehow you shine brighter than ever. That's not by chance. That's what happens when a woman no longer seeks to be chosen, because she's already chosen herself. As you've seen, natural beauty after 60 isn't something you chase, it's something you reveal. It lives in your calmness, your clarity, your confidence. These 10 signs aren't trends or tricks. They're quiet truths that show you're still radiant, still powerful, and more attractive than you realize, without needing to change a thing. When you stop living for others and start honoring your emotional independence, you begin to glow from within. That glow can't be manufactured. It comes from dignity, self-respect, and the freedom to be fully yourself. So take a moment to reflect. Which of these signs do you see in yourself today? Which ones are quietly waiting to be rediscovered? Share your story in the comments below. We'd love to hear how you're embracing your beauty, your way. And if this message touched you, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more content that honors your journey. You're not fading, you're unfolding, beautifully, naturally, and unapologetically.